Welcome into another edition of What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. A short week and a short podcast. We'll get you started with something new in braces to help you recover from sports injuries or support in general, and it's from a Barrie company. And one of the frustrations we heard a couple of shows back from the Child and Youth Advocacy Center was a lack of funding and staffing. Well, guess what? They got some from Queen's Park. We'll find out how it's going to help when we get the conversation started after this. Gimpy knee, a strained elbow, or some similar injury. Might be sports related, might not be, but you're looking for support in the form of a brace to help with your recovery. Chances are good you wound up with something from Trainer's Choice, a longtime Barrie company, which has taken its products in a new direction to try to stay ahead of the pack. Barrie 360's Ian MacLennan sat down with company president Rick Shaly and project manager Taylor Shaly to get the details.
Well, first off, let's talk a bit about the company itself. You said it's been in Barrie for 30 years, and what do you do?
So Trainer's Choice is a brace and support product manufacturer, and we started out a long time ago because I was injured in all the sports I played, and I wore braces playing hockey and growing up, and I opened a chain of sports medicine rehab facilities, and what I realized from that is that people came to us, got better, but they needed support back in the field or the job site. And so I developed a brace line called Trainer's Choice 30 years ago. And it's continued to grow over that time. And we're now the number one brand at mass market pharmacy in Canada.
And you've got a new launch, so to speak. Maybe you could tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, a couple of years ago, we're number one in sales across Canada. But product cycles last 3 to 5 years, and so we're sitting in the boardroom saying, okay, what's our next big feature? We have a lot of international, worldwide competitors, and we're a small little company in Barrie, Ontario, and we wanted to compete with the big boys. So we sat down and said, okay, what's happening in the world? What would make people excited about our brace line? And what we realized, was the big push in environmental responsibility, and electric cars were prominent, and wind farms and all the ways to keep the world going green. And so we said, I wonder if we could create a fabric that was sustainable. We know that neoprene, which is the base material used on most product lines, is made from petroleum. It's bad for the environment, and many of the big brands across the world in other product lines like scuba diving and other items were moving away from using petroleum-based products. So we set out on a plan to find a fabric somewhere in the world that would perform better than our base material that we were using. And so with a lot of research, a lot of testing, a lot of investigating that it had to perform as well, and we found a product called GeoCell, and we tested it, we trialed it, we talked to doctors, physiotherapists, orthopedic surgeons, and we got their feedback. We tested it on live patients in clinics and physiotherapy establishments, and we were pretty satisfied the way it was performing, to a point where we think we have a better product in the market that people are going to want to wear. And the most important thing is most recycled products or green products cost more, and we're able to deliver this at the same price. Okay, and tell us about your role in this project too.
For my role, I've been very heavily involved in the development, overseeing the sustainability of it, as well as being there to make sure we're getting that patient feedback on not only the products, but even our packaging, because we didn't want to change it too much that people wouldn't recognize our brand anymore. But how could we call out the sustainability aspect and have people still recognize our brand in the stores? So I've been heavily involved in making sure our customers have been involved, that we're taking the best steps to make sure it's the best, functional, durable, and comfortable product.
You're local, but you're international player now, and I'm just curious in terms of how competitive it is and how you stay one step ahead of everybody else.
Well, we're excited to say that we launched in our first major retailer in the U.S. Only 2 months ago. And we have a lot of interest in our product line. So we know we're going to the U.S., but our target is Europe, Holland being very green and the EU being very conscious when it comes to the environment, that we think that it's a good fit for our product line. And so we're planning on moving in that direction over the next year.
Who would use this, and what's the end goal for the customer?
Well, the product line fits any active person. If you're in pain from an elbow injury, we have products for that. It could be a knee injury. We started out geared towards sports, but it's evolved into any active lifestyle person that just wants to stay healthy, stay moving, stay functional. And so we support the injury. We try to keep people moving. And, through that, reduce pain. And people are usually happier when they can walk their dog or get to work or play sports.
And part of our brand is that on our social media, we also do a lot of injury recovery through educational videos on what brace you should choose, why you should wear it if you have this specific injury, which exercises you should be doing along with wearing the brace, because we don't want you just wearing the brace and not doing any exercises to get better. It's about the full functional recovery process, and that's what we really try to promote with these products as well.
Does it get you to a certain level again, or...?
It could be, like if you're an athlete and you want to get back in the game. It certainly aids in rehabilitation or aids in prevention in the sport you play. If it's work and you want to get to work and you've got an ankle brace or an ankle injury, and
right.
An ankle brace can help you get to work and move around and not miss work. That's a great thing. And it could be just lifestyle where you want to be able to play with your grandkids if you have osteoarthritis, and it's about staying active and staying positive in your lifestyle.
You talked sports medicine. What is the definition of sports medicine? Because some people might hear that and say, well, I'm not really an athlete, but I do engage in activities. So what is sports medicine?
Well, sports medicine is just ways to get people that play athletics back to the sport that they love, and keep them playing, keep them safe, and return to play in a safe, timely manner. Embracing is a component of that.
If people wanted more information about your product line and what's out there, where do they go to?
They can visit us at trainerschoice.ca, and they can find us on Instagram and Facebook at trainers_choice_. And there we have our products, the videos, and information about the green material, GeoCell.
Kate Waugh, the Executive Director of the Child and Youth Advocacy Center of Simcoe Muskoka, joined us a couple of weeks ago to talk about the important work the center is doing on behalf of young people in the region and how they could use more funding to help them do that work. Fast forward to last week and a government announcement about the expansion of a court-related program to the local center and funding to go along with it. Kate dropped by again to talk about the new program with Ian MacLennan.
Just briefly, what is the Child and Youth Advocacy Center? What is your role?
So our role is to support children and their families during the investigation process when there's suspected child abuse, neglect, or exploitation. So we are the neutral ground. The police and the family connections and all child protection agencies, they come and bring the kiddos and the families to our centers because they're a trauma-informed space. This way, the kids only have to tell their story once, not re-traumatize themselves, and then have the support. We'll connect them to all the community resources they need from the moment of disclosure and now all the way through to the end of their court process.
And the Child Victim Witness Support Program, the government provincial announced this week that the Barrie area, Simcoe County, Muskoka, will be a part of this program. What does this program entail, and why is it so important?
So this program walks alongside all young victims of violent crime. So what they do, they support advocates. They follow the kids, help them prep for court, help them do their witness statements, support them through all of that process, and then they'll sit with them in the court as well. So they're there to really hold their hand in a very complicated, convoluted system. There's a lot of trial stacking right now. There's a lot of backlog in the court. So this is somebody that's there to help navigate that system for the family and the kids. What's great now is that all of our natural wraparound supports that we have at our center will start from the moment of disclosure, and we can now follow that kiddo all the way through and be able to offer them all the supports that they need.
Did you have some sort of process prior to this provincial announcement?
Well, so this court support system has existed up in Simcoe Muskoka for over 17 years, but it was run out of the CYAC in Toronto called Boost. We didn't exist up here when it first started, so Boost was running it. And what's great is Doug Downey really fought for us to be able to the ones, and Boost was happy to hand it over. It just made more sense for us up here as the CYAC to be running the program locally. So that way we know all the local resources and we're able to support those families.
And of course, Doug Downey is Provincial Attorney General and MPP for Barrie Springwater and Oro-Medonte. The age of this support can begin as young as 3.
It can.
So obviously you've got different understandings and, grasping. Where did you start with a child who's 3 or 4 years old, for an example, whether they're witness to something that has not been good or they've been a victim of trauma?
Well, and a lot of times for those kiddos, it's play therapy. It's and a lot of work with the families so that the caregivers get the support that they need so they understand how to best support their children. Just knowing things that your kiddo may not sleep very well for the first little bit. And it is a lot of stress. It all depends on how the Crown attorneys and how the judges want to have the kids involved. So it might be remote testimony, which means they can do it in our centers with our dogs and our toys, and it's a much more comfortable seat. Place for them to be, or it might be that they do have to go to court. But they're really working at making sure all of us together that the kids are supported and not re-traumatized through this entire process.
Let's just say, re-victimization and going through that process. Obviously, evidence isn't discussed, but you have the experts there. I'm just curious how you massage that and manage that where, you're not discussing evidence, but you have to work through this. I can't imagine.
When we don't from the very beginning, we're very clear that if, and we get close with families, obviously, and they want to be able to tell us everything. And we're very clear that if you're going to disclose, we will support you in disclosing to the right people who can handle this. It's our way of being able to stay very neutral for that family and not being called in to deliver our own evidence. And we do that. The team does an amazing job in court support as well of making sure those little kiddos, Sherry Thomas is our lead witness advocate. And she was saying the other day that she had a kiddo, and every time the Crown will say, well, who's helped you get ready for court? And they'll say, oh, Sherry and Courtney helped me get ready. But don't worry, I wasn't allowed to talk about my case at all.
Okay. Yeah. So they go through that. Yeah. How, for the public, never been through the system and how challenging it can be, whether they're 13 years old or 3 years old, is there a fear factor there?
Absolutely.
Just based on what they've been through or have seen.
Well, what they've been through, the part of the issue is that you could be disclosing at 13 years old, and your case may not hit court till you're 15 or 16 years old. So all these people start to go through that healing process and trying to put it behind them, and then we start the whole thing again when you get back into court, telling your story, hearing, being picked apart, being challenged. The number one thing I hear from kids, and we have a youth advisory committee that we work really closely with, the youth voice is so important. They are saying, you don't know what it's like to be terrified no one's ever going to believe you. So that court process just comes back and brings it all back. So they really need as much wraparound supports as possible, because the point is to get them past this and get them healing, but make sure the community is safe and they're safe as well.
Is coaching the wrong word?
We definitely don't coach, yes, because we have to be very careful with that. It's just, here's the kinds of questions they'll ask. Here's how you answer a question. It's not detail oriented, but it's also, this is what the judge will say. People have no idea. I have no idea. I haven't been in a courtroom, right? And so it's just, this is what the process is. And that alleviates so much anxiety, and knowing that somebody who is an expert is going to be standing beside you the whole time.
When the case comes to an end and there's a verdict, whether the outcome is what was expected or not, what sort of supports are there after they've been through the system?
So we never close a case, and we never close a file, because you never know when that's going to hit you again, and we know how difficult it is to get the supports that you need. People can call us 5 years down the road. You know what? I'm having a rough time. This has really resurfaced to me. Maybe it's somebody who's getting married or having kids. Something has come back. So we support with the Child and Youth Advocacy Center, we go up to age 24. But if you've been under our care, you can always reach back out to us and we'll see what we can do to help you out. Court, we only go up to 18 because we're staying within. Right. Yeah, we don't want to get into the adult court.
What still needs to be maybe improved, or where can things be done better?
Well, I would say number one, our whole system, the Ministry of the Attorney General has done an amazing job, and they are funding the program. So we finally have that core funding just for the court support program. But the rest of the Advocacy Center is a nonprofit where we're fighting for dollars every day. Once it's mandated, there's a whole different feeling around it. There's a whole different level of engagement. So that's one of the big pieces. When it comes to court specifically, we really need to be allowing children to do remote testimony. We don't want them sitting in the courthouses all day long waiting for them and passing by sometimes the alleged offenders. So we really need to push back, and we're really fighting for that. So when COVID hit, everybody was out of the court system, and then there's been just a blanket, let's get back into the doors, and forgetting that part of that was it's better for kids to just do it from the CCTV cameras or record it.
Is that becoming the new normal, or should it be?
It's on and off. It really should be. It's far better for the kids, and the courts are so backlogged that they could be sitting there all day in this tiny little room and waiting all day long, and then it's not going to happen today. And it's not. It's just the backlog, and everybody's overworked. So if we could do that at the Child and Youth Advocacy Center, where I can order in food and we can play with toys and play with the dogs, it's far better.
And you received approximately $600,000
over 3 years.
Over 3 years.
Yes.
So, is the expectation this will now be funded, or?
Yes, we're pretty confident this is what it's been running for so long because there's several new agencies, including ourselves, that received the funding. It's on a 3-year contract for right now, but we're quite confident that will continue on.
Give us an example. We'll wrap it up about a youngster, whatever the age, that, obviously overwhelmed by what they're going through, and then it's over, and just maybe how they do feel. I know things can change, week to week, month to month, maybe, but.
Well, I can tell you, so we run a youth group with girls who've been affected by crime or are at risk for exploitation. And a lot of times it's the only time these girls come together who have had lived experiences, and they're all at different stages of it. And the one day I listened to them talking, and one child was trying to decide if she would be going to court, like if she would go forward with charges because the court process seemed so intimidating. And another kiddo had gone through it and said, listen, when it was over, I thought it would be over for me, that I would have that closure, and it's not. Things that I heard, having to talk about it again, it still brought it all back, and you're never going to be satisfied. You can't sentence an individual with the same amount of pain and suffering and trauma that someone has gone through, especially with sexual exploitation or any of these things. It affects you as a child. So it was interesting to listen to the two of them talk, and instead it became, you have to decide, are you doing this to protect yourself and feel closure, or are you doing this to make sure this doesn't happen to somebody else? And when you listen to 14-year-old girls wrestling with those types of decisions, it's very heavy, but it's amazing that we're able to provide that space where those conversations can happen, and then be able to support them through that process.
And that's our program for this week. Thanks to Ian, who carried the weight for us this time out, and to you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to What Barrie's Talking About, rate it, review it. You can also keep up with What Barrie's Talking About on Blue Sky and X at Barrie360, on our website, Barrie360.com, and there's our daily Kickstart podcast available from any streaming service and on our website. I'm Dan Blakely. Hope you'll join us again next week.